Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Recovering, I think. Hopefully, I'll be recovered more after the next half hour, 40 minutes or so. Because I'm hoping that tonight's guest can lift up my spirits a little bit. He usually does that. He's very good at that. And he's also very good at breaking down and analyzing this basketball team that we all know and love. DJ Zullo, hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a complicated last day and change in trying to digest what we witnessed in game two. I don't know if I am the man equipped to necessarily lift your spirits, unfortunately, because I have some concerns, which I'm sure we will get into, but it is nice because I've been literally thinking about this game since the buzzer sounded, and I've gone back and forth in terms of how I feel. So I'm hoping that once we're done with this conversation, I will have more clarity on what is just a lot of. This isn't as simple as, the Knicks got their one game on the road. There is a lot to sort of digest here.
I wish I could come over there and give you a hug because you phrased it. It's much in what I tried to do in 2 hours last night after the game. You just did better than I did in 30 seconds. It's not as simple as that.
Mm-mm.
I think it is the sort of I went back and like you did. I've been thinking about it. I rewatched it. This isn't a simple one, right? No, because there's things that Cleveland is doing, and those things are working, and then there are things that because I play for the team. The Knicks are doing to themselves that are certainly encouraged by what Cleveland is doing and furthered along by what Cleveland is doing. But I am the fence that I'm on, and I feel like you might be on the same fence, is like, are the things that are going awry here things that the Knicks are capable of fixing irrespective of what Cleveland is doing and what they are bringing to the table? And like implicit in that question is, I don't know how else to put it, are we good enough? Like, like realistically, like, yeah, everybody's capable of anything at this time of year, right? But like realistically, based on the personnel that we have, are we good enough to get out of this thing? That's kind of where I'm at. Are you pretty much the same place?
Yeah, I am. And I listened to you and Benji yesterday, and you guys did a tremendous job coming on as soon as that buzzer ended and trying to figure out a way to analyze that game. And the theme to me that I took from your conversation with Benji was the Knicks are going to have to make quicker decisions because the Cavs are going to put them in the position where that is a necessity. And the question is, and this is something that I feel like we've been talking about since Tibbs came on 2 years ago and Randall sort of took the reins as one of the high usage guys on this roster. Are they equipped to make those decisions, especially when things get tight, whether it's a regular season game close down the stretch or the playoffs against Atlanta where they failed that test? And I am not
in spectacular fashion,
which, we talked about ad nauseum, and we've gone to this team right now. And I don't know if they have the wherewithal to sort of take what Cleveland is going to do. We saw them do it. They're going to take the ball as much as they can out of Brunson's hands. They're going to overload his strong side and force him to either make that pass over to the weak side or get the ball out of his hands quickly, and then force one of the Knicks players, ancillary pieces, to make a play. And to do that, it has to be crisp. It has to be fast. And there were too many occasions yesterday where the pass was just a beat too late, where the decision was just a split second off. And that is the sort of situation where all those creases and all those lanes, they close up fast. His team engulfs you. And it's amazing how much their defense on the back line can sort of just move and they have arms and legs and limbs everywhere. And you have to be on point. And this Knicks roster, that is not a strength of theirs. We have talked about since October what they're good at, and what they're good at are the things we've been talking about since October: taking care of the ball, offensive rebounding, and making tough shots with their two best players. And I don't know if they have it in them to sort of flip that switch and make those plays with the sort of Christmas and not hastiness, but just sort of get into their actions a little bit faster. I don't know if that's something they're equipped to do. And it might be a situation where they just have to do the things they've been good at since day one and just do them better in game 3, game 4, and so on.
You just made me think of something, because so often about it, when we talk about a Tom Thibodeau coach team, the conversation immediately goes to, well, they're always going to play hard and he's always going to he's a floor raiser, right? He raises the floor. And I think we could actually go a step further than that, at least with this team, which is that not only did they do perhaps as good a job of anyone in the NBA, close to it, of playing to their strengths, but I want to say that they played to the comfort level of their players. It's no secret how Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle and Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett and all these guys want to play. Perhaps the only guy who doesn't get to play the way he wants to play is Obi Toppin, who has kind of been marginalized. Everybody else, though, for the most part, like even Quentin Grimes gets to do two things he's great at: either spot up and shoot, or put the ball on the floor and make a play on the way to the rim. That's what they want to do. And because they get to do those things, because that's the first domino. I know I used this analogy last night, but I feel like I have to go back to it, because that's the first thing they get to do, because you don't play a great defense every night, and you certainly don't play defense that game plans for you every night with the skill level that the Cavs have. You get to set up the dominoes as you want. And with Cleveland now taking away how you want to start that chain reaction, it's like logically I could be like, how in God's name did the Knicks go from having tied for the third best offense in the league to now they are putting up 101 point, whatever it is, points per 100 possessions, which would be last by 7 or 8 points or whatever it is. Well, that's how. And that feels like a massive drop off, but it makes sense to me. And I guess I don't know if the thing that is most troubling to me is the things that they have been strong at all year: offensive rebounding, getting to the line, and shooting, and not turning the ball over. 2 out of those 3 things are going really well. They are the best offensive rebounding team in the playoffs as of where the Laker game has just started. So theoretically, someone could pass them. But they're as of we're recording, best offensive rebounding team in the playoffs. 3rd most highest free throw rate in the playoffs, and they're actually making their free throws for once. So those 2 boxes are checked. And then you look at the turnovers, and look, the turnovers are killing them. Don't get me wrong, but guess who else is turning it over a shit ton? The Cavaliers, which is like not something that they usually do. So it's like they kind of have checked like 2.5 of those boxes, but it's so much on what you talked about, and I'm just then let's get into how we fix it, because like we know what went wrong. Let's start here. Do you think there needs to be, I don't want to say personnel changes, but like, do you think the answer is with who is on the floor together and how much time maybe those players spend together? Let's start there.
Yeah, I think I have definitely thought about this, and I don't know if this is I don't know if a major move is in the cards right now, and I don't necessarily think it's the right. I think there are basketball moves you can make starting in game 3 that could make some sense.
Like what? Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So I at this point right now, I mean, I don't know if RJ Barrett is giving you the production on either end of the floor to justify the minutes he's playing. I think that's a fact. Now,
you're an RJ guy, by the way. I just want everybody to know.
Yeah, I've been relatively high in him since day one, and I think I'm not impugning his outlook as a player, but right now in this moment, it's not what this is about, and I don't know if he's the right guy at this point for what the Knicks are needing. Now, if you go and you bench RJ Barrett, or let's say you start Josh Hart in game 3 after taking a game in Cleveland, the message you are sending to your team, I don't think is a good one.
I agree.
Now, if they're down 2-1 and RJ struggles, or quickly struggles, or Mitch again is put in this position where he's having to make plays on a short roll and he's just not equipped to do it, then you can talk about major changes. But I don't think, if we can go down the list, they need Quickly's ball handling. I don't think, even if he's not shooting well, there's no world in my estimation where he's not playing. They're going to have to work through, and he's going to have to figure it out, or they're not going to win. I think Tom is going to make sure their rim protection is in line, and Mitch has been absolutely I put it in a thread. He's been impervious as a rim protector. I pulled the numbers. The Cavs are 9 of 26 against Mitch overall. 3 of 15.
Serious?
9 of 26 when he's the closest defender.
Oh my
3
God.
of 15 within 10 feet. Now, if you break that down even further, Mobley 1 of 7 and Allen 2 of 6. And we've seen this. This isn't like Mitch was in the vicinity and he happened to get credit for it. He is meeting these guys at their apex and he's deterring shots. He's offensive rebounding with abandon. That hasn't changed. I don't think you can move away from him. RJ's the one guy where you could theoretically come up with a scenario where you replace his minutes with either Hart, McBride, God forbid, Fournier, and you have a situation.
I can't. I can't.
Listen, I understand. Right now, he is not inspiring confidence in me. And I don't think his defense has been bad. I thought his passing in game 1 was really good. I thought he took a step back in game 2.
I agree, but with both of those statements, yeah.
Yeah, but he's not providing what they need right now. And again, I wouldn't make the move for game 3. I think you have to hope that there is something there that he can extract as a driver, but it just seems so tough because they are cutting off every angle for him. He's not getting all the way to the basket. He's resorting to those push shots and the fadeaways, and he's not hitting shots from the perimeter. And his defense, while it's been pretty good, I don't think it's necessarily something that you are holding your head on as a positive. So,
I mean, let's focus just because because people are going to hear this and be like, his defense has been very good. His defense in game 1 was good. I thought his defense I don't want to say it took he was the primary defender on Garland for a lot of what Garland did, and he made Garland's life difficult. He definitely made Garland's life difficult. I don't know that whatever he is giving you in terms of defense on Garland is that far and above what you can get out of the remainder of your wings. And that includes Emmanuel Quickly, who, look, you perhaps as much as anyone have praised, as we all have praised Emmanuel Quickly's defense. Emmanuel Quickly, point of attack against a guy like Darius Garland, that's not where Emmanuel Quickly wants to be. That's not where you want him. That's not his strength. I still think if you have to sprinkle in a little Quickly, and look, let's just be very clear about this. There's no world where RJ Barrett gets removed from the rotation, and you are so right. There is no world where they change any of this before game 3. That's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen. It would send a horrible message ahead of the first home game of the playoffs. We're talking about kind of adjusting moving forward, and I completely agree with you. These sorts of things need to be considered. I like how you countered it with Mitch, because I know you know the numbers as well as I do. The numbers with Mitch on the floor on offense are poo-poo. They're scoring 70 something points per 100 possessions with him on the floor. That's now a lot of those minutes are with RJ, which is why I love how you phrased it. It's like, well, hold on. If we move RJ from the equation and we get Quickly in there as another ball handler, does that mitigate some of what you lose with Mitch not being Hartenstein on offense? And the problem is we're already 2 games into this thing, so the time for experimentation is running low. So I don't, I'm like you. I'm like, I don't really know which way I would turn.
Well, it's tough, and I think, and I'll give RJ a pass in this regard. He is miscast right now as a defender in the sense that he shouldn't have to guard Garland.
No,
it's just not a matchup that there are not many wings in the league that can guard a shifty point guard that can get in the paint, that is an elite shooter from the pull-up situation, a great pick and roll player. He's doing this because the Knicks don't trust Jalen Brunson to guard the opposing point guard that can score.
That's the first original sin.
Now, here's the thing. If you remember the last game the Knicks and Cavs played in the regular season, the Knicks started Brunson on Garland. It was the first time all season they had done it, and Garland smoked him. And it was not fun to watch, and he didn't have a chance against him. And I don't know if that was sort of the Knicks, let's see if this could work, because knowing that this was the likely matchup, and I think they saw that. And if I was a coach, I would be petrified of putting Brunson on Garland. Now, with that said, I don't know if the LeVert is going to be the guy playing 35 minutes, if they shouldn't go ahead and try it. Because if you're going to have RJ out there,
I love where you're going with this.
You put him on LeVert, and he can hold his own.
Yes.
You give Brunson the assignment on Garland. You sort of balance out your defense, and you take something off the table that Cleveland has done. They made the first move. They put LeVert in. The Knicks are going to have to decide if they're going to live with Brunson guarding LeVert in situations where in closeouts where he is giving up 3-4 inches, where he's giving up 30 pounds. LeVert is crafty. He was making passes in the paint. He's making shots. He is a really hard one-on-one player to defend when you're 6'5", 6'6", let alone 6'1". I think the Knicks should consider at least the idea of just putting
rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. And seeing what happens, because I think that at that point, I think you at least get to a baseline where things feel normal and things feel like at the point where defensively they don't have a lot of answers when LeVert is out there and you're trying to hide Brunson on him. If it's Okoro, if it's Osman, if it's Dean Wade, go for it. If it's Danny Green. LeVert is tough, and I think the Knicks have to consider making a move to sort of mitigate that advantage.
So here's the other problem, and that's why this is such a fascinating series, and it was a fascinating series before it started, and it's even more fascinating after 2 games. Everything you talk about on one end of the floor bleeds into the other end of the floor. Right. So if we're sitting here and we're like, okay, the Knicks need more ball handling on the floor. What's the way to do that? Well, you try to get Jalen Brunson and Emmanuel quickly on the floor at the same time. Okay, great. You're not going to adjust your starting lineup yet, maybe not at all. And if you do adjust your starting lineup, they're not putting in Emmanuel quickly for RJ Barrett. If anything, they're putting in Josh Hart for RJ Barrett. Mm-hmm. Whatever. You're going to continue to bring quickly off the bench. Him and Brunson have played 12 minutes together in this series through 2 games. I don't particularly think that is enough. I think they need to increase that number a lot if they want to have a chance to score at a rate that is going to beat this team. Okay, well, then if you get those 2 guys out there, then all of these issues that you're talking about in terms of the Cavs being able to, like, okay, peel the Band-Aid off, this is your poison that you've chosen. This is the method. You've chose the method of your destructor, which is a line I used in a newsletter earlier this week, and I'm just going to go back to the well. Well, now if you got quickly out there too, well, that exacerbates the problem. Right. And I think, look, they're bringing this all emanates from the Cavs are able to bring these screeners up, and the Knicks centers are just they it's some version of drop, right? There's no other option. There's some version of drop, and you're either dropping a little bit further so you can try to have your cake and eat it too, in terms of, well, I could still get back and protect the rim if whoever it is, Garland or Mitchell, turns on the Jets. But then they could pull up from 3, and again, it's okay, well, what's the poison you want to live with? And I don't know what the answer is. Well, I just don't know.
It's very tough. And if you look at it now, we've talked a lot about how defensively what they could do. We know the Knicks have struggled in the half court, 76 points per 100 in the half court. Just to put that in context, the worst team in the NBA this year in the half court, points per possession per cleaning the glass.
Can I guess?
Houston Rockets. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, the Houston Rockets.
No, I was going to, let me guess in the half court.
Half court. You want to guess the number?
Is it in the 90s?
Barely. 91.
Okay.
So the Knicks are 15 points below that threshold. Now the Cavaliers are at 88 points per 100 in the half court. So the Knicks defense, with all the issues and now again, a lot of that is with Okoro in the lineup. He's taken a lot of those minutes so far. So I think with LeVert out there, that number is obviously going to be a little bit higher. I think the Knicks defense I think they're going to be okay. Now, where they go offensively is where it gets really complicated, because you're going to rely on guys, and you talked about at the beginning, that have certain roles and that have fit those roles perfectly, that are being asked to make decisions and make plays the ball in their hands that I just don't know. I mean, there was a moment where Quentin Grimes got a swing, and he had Josh Hart had a seal on the left corner.
Okay.
The 3 was there. Garland's closing out. Now, it wasn't a wide open shot, but from the left corner, Grimes is one of the best in the NBA. And he decides to sort of beat that closeout, drive the ball, and that's when he bounced it off Josh Hart's head and created a turnover. And it was one of those situations where, he's getting a few cracks of the apple, and in that moment, he made the wrong decision. He should have shot the ball.
Yep.
He didn't, and that is the sort of situation where you're only getting a few opportunities. You have to make the most of it, and the Knicks have to figure out a way to get more 3-pointers up, and they have to obviously be more efficient. Their frequency has been very low. They're at 36% of the regular season. They're down to 31% 3-point frequency in the playoffs. Their percentage is terrible. They have to figure out a way to generate more threes, and part of that is what I mentioned at the beginning: swinging the ball faster, getting it from strong to weak side, and just letting it fly and figuring out a way to generate more looks. That is how this team can sort of bridge that gap offensively a little bit.
And you want to talk about comfort level again.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what I think made the Knicks, because again, they're not dumb. They know they're not a great shooting team. I think part of what made them comfortable in the regular season is the fact that they knew they didn't have to be perfect, because especially if it's Mitch, but even if it's Hartenstein, going to clean up on the offensive glass. And Mitch got a lot of offensive rebounds in game 1, not so much in game 2, but the putbacks, even if you grab the offensive rebounds, and Hartenstein got a bunch in game 2, the putbacks aren't as easy because you have at least one of those guys down there. And for a lot of the game, you have 2 of those guys down there. So that exacerbates that issue. Let's go back to the offense for a second, because I completely agree. I said it before the series, and I feel even stronger about it now. They need to get up threes, and they need to get up quality threes. Now, part of that is on guys like Randall and Brunson, who have the ball a lot, and RJ, if he's going to continue, because he's had the ball a fair amount, because Grimes has been open. Like, there, if you go back and watch, you'll see him open on occasions where he does not get the ball. It has to be a point where it's like, if he is open, we are getting him the ball. You have to treat him as someone who is as important in the offense as, in a way, like Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle are. Of course, it's different, but like, he's got room. We're going to get him the ball, because I think that is the thing that will start to, kind of grease the skids a little bit if he starts making some of those and gets Cleveland a little gun shy there. I think that's the first thing. And then, we talked about getting quickly on the ball or on the floor more with Brunson. And I think that's a start. And then, you got to try to mix and match, and survive on the other end. I'm like you. I think they're going to be able to defend well enough to win this series. I'm more afraid on the offensive side of the ball. Speaking of which, let's talk about Julius Randle for a minute, because you added context to the quote tweet I had from the Low Post podcast, because it's not just RJ Barrett that has sucked in the playoffs. It's Julius Randle too. And we have enough of a sample size now where we can say that he had a great first half, necessary first half in game 1. They don't win the game without his first half in game 1. But other than that, he's been bad. I guess the thing that I'm wondering is, if you look at where he tried to get his points in game 2, he tried to, and that's why I find it funny where everybody's like, okay, let's get more physical now. I don't know how Julius Randle's supposed to try to get more physical. All he did was try to get under the rim and bully his way to baskets. And guess what? It didn't work.
No, he's got 4 inches. Mobley's got 4 inches on him. Allen in there. Every time Randle got in the paint, he tried to lower his shoulder. Yeah. Head fake. Mobley doesn't jump. And it's either a strip, it's a block, or it's a bad miss. So that is not going to bear fruit.
No,
and it's not. And there just isn't, that's the thing. There was a lot of way more ISO. So he made one turnaround early in the game yesterday.
In the first quarter over Mobley, and that was a tough shot.
Tough shot over his right shoulder. So going, away from his dominant hand. It's a shot that he's not been good at his entire career that he ended up making. Great. It's one of those situations where if that is how they're going to generate offense, it's not going to work, because for what we've talked a lot about Mobley, in terms of his lack of offense, and his finishing has been really bad for the most part. but he's a damn good defender. He's one of the best defenders at his position. You're not going to just want ISO him and figure out a way to score 25 on decent efficiency. It's not going to happen. So Now where do you go from there?
I have a thought.
Tough.
How do we get Randall going downhill? And I know that's like, well, duh, if you could get Randall going downhill, of course Randall wants to get going down. It's easier said than done. I'm just wondering, is there any way to do that? And I don't really, again,
you keep him off the ball. You keep him off. I mean, the only way that you do that is you keep him off the ball. And whether it's quickly RJ or Brunson, you sort of have the defense funnel in towards you as the ball handler, swing it, get it to Randall where Mobley is now closing on him to the point where he's not set. And then either Randall's taking that shot, which he did. He quickly had a play in the second half where he got into the paint. Danny Green was at the nail. He dug in. He was on Randall, opened up the Randall shot, quickly kicked it out to him. Randall, no hesitation. He cashed that 3-pointer in. But that is a situation where if he doesn't shoot that ball, then you can attack a closeout. And it's a little bit easier when you have a guy closing on you versus a situation where you're catching the ball and then it's jab step, head fake, and then you're trying to figure out a way to generate offense against an elite defender. It's not going to work. So having him off the ball and figuring out a way to get in the paint, get the defense moving a little bit and swinging it back to him. And he's actually really good attacking a closeout, but then the other situation is he beats Mobley. He's got to deal with Allen in the paint. So that's why this is
trusting him as a playmaker.
Right. Hit or miss, right?
So it's hit or miss.
This is and you said it multiple times last night. This is why this was an elite defense during the regular season. They are every time you come up with the Knicks can do this. Oh, but the Cavs can counter in this way. They have a counter for almost everything you're going to try to do, especially going to the basket. So there's no easy answer, but a answer that I'm somewhat comfortable with is getting Julius off the ball, having him try to beat a closeout, and then either getting to the rim, drawing fouls, and or just taking that open shot without hesitation, something that he has been better at this year. So those are some of the ways that maybe he can get going a little bit.
I completely agree. And that's why, and I brought it up when I spoke to Jeremy the other day, and to put an even like that, I don't think this is a great matchup for the Knicks for as much as they beat this team 3 games. But again, in the games they won, I don't know how many, if any of those, the Cavs really had all of their guys. Like they were missing guys in various games, and plus it's a regular season, so it's like.
Yeah. And one of those was the Brunson 48-point game, and I don't know. So you can't really count on that in terms of bringing you home.
I think we're gonna get a Brunson game or two. I hope we're gonna get a Brunson game or two. But I am counting on that. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I was gonna say is the reality, and I think what we're learning, and it's not only on one end of the floor; it's on both ends of the floor. You need a big wing who could do stuff to beat this team, because if you have one of those, you can make your life a lot easier in terms of your perimeter defense. And oh boy, if it's a ball handling wing, and if it's a guy, now granted, look, there's like 8 of 7 of those in the league that are really good, and they are the best, the toughest commodities to come across. So it's like telling you go out and just get one of those.
Right.
But if you have one, that's what's gonna be able to give you a little bit of a trump card over this defense. The Knicks don't. Just go back to Randall for a second. I almost wonder, like, should they just not? I mean, I don't say change his role, but like, so you say get him off the ball. If there's opportunities for him you get him downhill, great. And then if he doesn't get the ball in a possession, he's just crashing the offensive glass, because he is very good at crashing the offensive glass. And I feel like that is a way he could use his physicality to an advantage. But then instead of maybe going to look and go right back up, and this is not something he's done yet, I don't think, turn around and look for who is the available 3-point shooter to kick it to.
Yeah.
Which then leads to, okay, you got to have 3-point shooters on the floor. That means more Grimes. That means more quickly. And get those guys in rhythm and get those guys shooting it. I get implicit in like the getting quickly on the floor more. We haven't seen a whole lot of guard pick and rolls, I feel like, in this series. I don't know if we've seen one involving Quickly and Brunson. Maybe we did in game 1 and I just forgot.
There was at least one in game 2 that it ended up sort of the Cavs didn't switch it, but they hedged really hard. It ended up being a one-on-one Brunson Levert ISO, and it was a Brunson. He ended up missing a step back three, but that might have been the only one.
I would try to go back to that, and see if that bore more fruit.
Yeah, I agree.
And just, you got to get Brunson going, because he is the closest thing you have to efficient offense, and if he gets going, it gets all the other dominoes. I think at the very least in a place where you feel like you can have success.
Yeah, and real quick, and if I would just say this, I would love to see more quickly pick and roll starting out much deeper. So as soon as he crosses half court,
when he has the ball.
Okay.
This is what Benji was talking about last night, about getting quickly on the ball, with maybe with Brunson on the floor.
With Brunson on the floor, off the ball, get quickly, but it's not necessarily just getting him the ball. It's setting that screen as soon as he crosses half court. So you're getting quickly downhill to where that's either going to turn into a pull-up three that he has not had. If he has one this playoffs or these two games.
I mean, he only has the one make.
The one make, right. But so, I mean, I think that's a way to get him going, and it's a way to get the Cavs off him, because he is just not equipped right now in this point of his career to deal with the ball pressure. And I think with the way they're handling him is that they are taking away that floater. So they have their big playing more at the level. So that floater's gone. And because he's not separating off that initial screen, the Cavs, whether it's Garland or Danny Green at one point, they're getting right back in front of him. So they are just swallowing his space up. And I think that if you can set that screen a little bit farther out, that can maybe give him a little more room to operate, get Brunson off the ball to where he's getting a couple catch and shoot opportunities, getting a closeout here or there, and not having to deal with all these ISOs, all these giants sort of swallowing him up in terms of the strong side. That might be a way to help, kind of kill two birds with one stone in terms of helping Brunson.
And people are going to hear what you said, and they're going to be like, well, what do you mean Brunson quickly doesn't have the ball skills at this point in his career? We've seen him, score all these points, on the inside of the arc, dribbling around. That is after he gets the initial penetration. He needs to get it. Once he gets in there, and once he gets his guy on his hip, then he can do all kinds of the fun stuff that we have come to know and love. He's not getting that initial. He's not getting in the door.
He's not right. And then you couple that with the fact that there's no drop that is going to allow him to get into that floater. They are playing. This is what it is. I mean, they're taking away so many things. In terms of quickly is the best on the Knicks in terms of making that weak side pass to the opposite corner, and that they are snuffing that out. I mean, this is what it is. So you're going to have to counter and figure out a way to get him going.
You have to
in different ways. It is what it is. Now the other issue is that the Knicks shooters, Grimes and Quickly, neither one are your classic off-screen movement shooters, and that's another limitation that we're seeing, and that is, well, Grimes can do it a little bit going to his right off handoffs with Randall or Toppin. I would love to see more of that, but in terms of just sprinting around a screen, catching and going, it's not something that's in their skill set at this point. Hope they develop that going forward, but again, it makes everything tougher when you're stagnant and you're not moving. It requires that crisp ball movement that we talked about at the beginning.
Here's where I'm at, and then I'll throw it back to you, see if you have anything else to add before we get out of here. They, in game 2, for as bad as game 2 turned out to be, they were winning that game up until the end of the first quarter, and it was a 1-point game 3 minutes into the second quarter. And really, you could go even deeper than that. Like there were 3 minutes left in the half. It was funny. Jeremy said it last night during the playback. He's like, let's get it under, let's get it to like 6. And you felt like you could do it. And then there was just that final like avalanche where it's just, they kind of let go of the rope.
Yep.
I think you continue to try your best to defend them out of the gate and muck up the game early, and then maybe and I don't know how exactly he would rejigger the rotation in a way to do this. Maybe pulling Brunson early, maybe doing Brunson with the 3 shifts that he did with Randall in game 1, and I guess he did it with Randall again in game 2.
Mm-hmm.
But like trying to score when they are, because they can't play only 5 guys. They have to go to Chetty Osman. They have to go to Danny Green, and then you try to score your points against their bench and trust that your lesser defenders can survive again against the likes of your Danny Greens and your Chetty Osmans or whoever else they decide to play. And again, I could sit here and I could say that, and it sounds great. It's hard to do.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Well, I think the one thing that has been a strength since the Josh Hart trade, and something I think they can go to and even enhance a little bit more, is their transition opportunities. It is,
sure. Yeah.
The half court is going to be a slog. It's just, they're going to hopefully improve off 76 points per 100, but they're not going to be they're not going to crack the 100. They're not going to be efficient in that area. How are you going to generate offense? Well, transition is one way that, beyond the free throw rate, which has been good, beyond the offensive rebounding, which has been good, that is another way that they can do some things. Now, in game 2, and Fred Katz in his article, he touched on this, Mobley was back every single time in the second half. And in transition. And there were times where he was the only guy back, and that was enough. And again, it speaks to how good he is.
He was the 3rd leading vote getter, defensive player. The guy's a 2nd-year player. He's second year, the 3rd leading vote getter.
He's incredible defensively, but that is an area that the Knicks have been good at since Josh Hart. I don't necessarily know how they're going to enhance that. Whether it might have to be a team-wide. Listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to push the ball off makes, off misses, off free throws. We're going to off steals. Obviously, they're going to have to generate points outside the half court, and transition is the one thing that they have in their cards that I think is an advantage for them, because if they're going to try to play this game primarily in the half court, they're not going to score enough, even if they're playing solid defense on their own end.
How about this? And again, this is what the Cavs can make you do. Got to get out of your comfort zone. What do the Knicks want to do in transition? They want to attack the basket. Well, guess what? That's not working. And by the way, you have some guys on your team that when they're in transition, they're not very good at attacking the basket when there's a big body back there.
Yeah. We know Quickly and Grimes, they've done it. They are good shooters off movement in transition, not necessarily in a half court, but you get them going in a straight line. They can make shots. Yeah. Get them some. That is another great way of getting.
That's a way to get them open baskets.
Yes.
And like we saw Brunson try to push the pace in game 2, but he was pushing the pace to try to get himself going. Yeah. So, it's like, again, the more we talk about this, like, okay, I feel like a football coach. There's a seam there and there's a seam there. Like there are seams.
There are avenues. Now they close quickly. They're avenues that you have to, that is again, it gets back to, are they equipped to make these decisions on the fly in a red hot environment in a moment's notice? We're going to see. It is an open question. Now, I was hoping that I was going to boost your spirits this evening, and I feel like we've been both kind of commiserating together, but I don't think this is a lost series. I picked the Cavs in 7 prior to the series. I still would probably go with that. I haven't seen enough to sort of change off that theory. I think the Knicks have a fighting chance in this, which, listen, for where this team has been over the last several years, I'll take it, but they're going to have to do some things that, as you mentioned, that is outside their comfort zone to figure out a way to deal with a great defense with a couple of great defensive players. And we haven't even talked about the Donovan Mitchell factor, and we could be, he might have another 30, 40 point game in his bag, which you have to deal with.
Where can I place the wager that, what did he end up, 17 points in game 2? Where can I place the wager that is going to be the lowest point total that he has
now
in this series?
I looked the other day, every playoff series almost to a T, he will have a 7 for 25 game. He will have a 10 for 31 if it's a long 5+ game series. So maybe he's got one of those in his cards. But
LeVert's but we should also say LeVert is not, I don't know what LeVert's final stat line was. LeVert's not always going to be as good as he was. Like, there's a reason why he was option number 3,
Okay, push back a little bit on that.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So here Yeah,
Yeah,
you look at LeVert over his career. You're right. He's been inconsistent. That has been a hallmark for him. He can score 40 one night, and he can score 10 on 3 of 20 or 15 from the field. If you put him against the likes of Jalen Brunson and Emmanuel quickly, you allowed him to ISO for 82 games, he's not going to be so inconsistent. And I think that is, if you're the Knicks and that is the matchup you're going to put out there, I think you have to bet, you have to just say, I'm going to give him looks that he's very comfortable with. And I would expect LeVert to continue to perform well against those matchups, which, is going to be a problem. I mean, not to say he can't, have a stinker here and there, but against Brunson, against quickly, not sure I bet on that.
You want to know the answer to what we could have saved ourselves 40 minutes?
Yeah. What do you got?
Make some tough shots.
Yeah.
Be better on, make better decisions, make quicker decisions, make tough shots. And they're going to have to, and there's a reason defense translates into the playoffs. You got to bear down, and you you have to be better. And in game 2, again, they lost that game because they couldn't score, but and I think I was a little off base on this when I talked about it last night. Like the Cavs ended up with 107. They could have gotten, like, they found their groove. Like, it was a slog early, and credit to the, like, how the Knicks defended in the first 15 minutes or 17 or 18 minutes of that game. They have to defend that way for 48 minutes, and that means no pouty Julius. I didn't get the ball in the corner. I'm going to allow Evan Mobley to get an uncontested dunk. That's the example that stands out in my head. But there were a couple other instances where,
the Cavs out. They won the offensive rebounding battle. You can't do that. That just can't. No, you can't do it. You're not going to win, and you have to win that category every single night. So I think they'll clean that part up. I don't expect the Cavs to win that stat line on the offensive glass again, but they did in game 2, which was part of the reason why the Knicks, struggled a little bit on defense.
Yep.
I got to clean that up.
Clean it up. There you go. Andrew, there's the title of the episode. Clean it up. DJ, you're the man. Anything else before we get out of here?
Listen, I'll be in MSG for game 3, which
that's awesome.
I live in North Carolina, so I'm not able to get up there that often. So I will be there. I'll be rocking the Knicks Film School swag. Here we go. We'll be back. So I will be representing. Hopefully, get to say hi to a few of you out there. Just hoping for a rocking arena. I think the MSG was amazing for that Hawk series, and I expect nothing less on Friday night.
It's going to be loud. I hope that the environment. Here's the one thing I will say is, like, I think we have more guys now, because in the Hawk series, it was just, for me at least, it was just Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson that did not kind of cower under the pressure, under the bright lights. I think we have more guys now that will be inspired and emboldened by playing in front of the home crowd than perhaps we did 2 years ago. So, and I hope your presence is good karma. Before I let you go, remind the folks, if for whatever reason they don't know where they could find you, where they could find you.
Thank you. Yeah. Ace Zullo, ACE_ZULLO on Twitter. I have my YouTube channel in my profile. You can search The Craft NBA on there. Hope to be a little more active getting those videos out, but I've been, so locked in on the Knicks. I haven't been able to do so, but I hope to get a couple out in the near future. But, thanks again for having me. This has been a blast. I feel like I have a little more clarity than I did 40 minutes ago. So I appreciate the therapy session, trying to figure out what happened on game 2.
Your analysis is so top notch. I feel like, and again, I don't hide it very well. The fact that, like, I love this sport so much, I could study it for 100 years, and I wouldn't be able to do what you and Benji do, as far as just like watching the film and being like, oh yeah, this thing, that thing. I just don't see the game that way. So I have all the respect in the world for what you're able to do, and your content is incredible. Please, everybody, if you're listening to this and you have not yet followed DJ on Twitter, do that, and absolutely subscribe to the YouTube, because there's tons of great stuff on there. I can't wait to see what you come out with over the course of the rest of the playoffs, assuming maybe the Knicks don't make it all the way to the finals. Maybe you'll have some insights on some of the other teams on your YouTube channel. I'll keep an eye out for that.
Thank you.
Of course, man.